Far away from the small blue planet called Earth, a large alien ship moved quietly through space. The ship belonged to the Kryn Concord, a group of many alien races who had joined together long ago. They traveled the stars, mapping new systems, looking for resources, and watching for danger. The ship was called the Silent Drift. It was old but strong. Inside, a captain named Vos Ilare stood in front of a large window. She had blue skin and long white hair that moved slowly, like it was floating in water. Her eyes were golden, and they showed she had seen many things in her long life. Vos looked out at the stars. Her ship was heading toward a small yellow star. The star had a name in old human language, the Sun, but the Kryn did not call it that. They called it designation 4471-Y. To them, it was just another star with planets around it. "Report," Vos said. Her voice was calm. A younger officer named Tell answered. He was thin, with green skin and dark eyes. "Captain, we are close to the third planet. Scans show water, oxygen, and land, but there are no signs of a large civilization. No big cities, no radio signals, no ships." Vos frowned. "Nothing at all?" "Nothing that matters," Tell said. "Maybe some small groups of creatures. Simple life. Nothing like us." Vos nodded slowly. This was not surprising. In her long career, she had seen many planets like this. Some planets had life, but the life never grew smart enough to build ships or cities. This blue planet, this Earth, looked like one of those. "Mark it as empty," Vos said. "Not worth a visit. We move on to the next system." Tell typed the order into his screen. On official Kryn records, Earth was marked with a simple word, empty. No danger, no civilization, no reason to stop. This was a mistake, but the Kryn did not know it yet. The truth was very different from what the Kryn believed. Earth was not empty, far from it. Humanity had grown for thousands of years, and in the last 200 years, humans had grown faster than ever before. They had built machines, computers, and finally, ships that could fly beyond their own planet. But there was something special about humans. They were careful. After many wars on their own planet, after seeing how easily they could destroy themselves, humans had learned to be quiet about their power. When they finally found signs of other life in the galaxy, old signals, broken ships, strange messages, they did not run out to say hello. Instead, they waited, they watched, they studied. Humanity built a great shield around their solar system. It was not made of metal, it was made of clever science. Special devices bent light and blocked signals, so that any ship flying by would see only empty space, or maybe a few faint traces of simple animal life. This shield had a name among humans, the Quiet Veil. The idea for the Quiet Veil came from one person, Dr. Amara Chen, a scientist who had studied old human history. She once said something that many humans remembered. When you meet a stranger for the first time, you do not show them everything you own. You watch them first. You learn who they are. Only then do you decide if you can trust them. Her words became a rule that humanity followed for many generations. And so, while the Kryn Concord and other alien races flew past the sun and called it empty, human ships and stations sat quietly behind their veil, watching every alien ship that passed by. Humans collected data. They studied alien languages. They learned about different alien races, who was friendly, who was dangerous, who was at war with whom. Humanity was not hiding because they were weak. They were hiding because they were smart. 200 light-years away from Earth, in a completely different part of the galaxy, something terrible was happening. A powerful empire called the Threxian Dominion was destroying everything in its path. The Threxians were a race of tall, armored creatures who believed that only the strong deserved to live. They did not make peace. They did not talk. They attacked first and asked no questions. For 50 years, the Threxian Dominion had grown bigger and bigger, eating up smaller alien nations one by one. Planets that once had millions of people now had none. Cities were turned to ash. Fleets that tried to fight back were destroyed completely. The Kryn Concord, along with other alien groups, had formed an alliance to stop the Threxians, but it was not going well. Battle after battle, The Threxian ships proved too strong, too fast, and too cruel. Alliance planets fell one after another. On a Kryn command ship called the Radiant Hope, a general named Merrick Doss looked at a large map of the galaxy. Red lights showed planets already lost to the Threxians. Blue lights showed planets still free. The red lights were spreading fast, like a disease. "We are losing," said an officer next to him. His name was Io, and he was young, with shaking hands. "The Threxian fleet destroyed 3 more colonies this week. If this keeps going, they will reach Kryn home space within a year." General Doss did not answer right away. He was tired. He had fought in this war for over 10 years, and every year it got worse. He looked at the map again, at all the red lights spreading like a stain across the stars. "Send a message to all remaining Alliance forces," Doss finally said. "Tell them to fall back toward the outer systems. We need more time to build new ships, new weapons." "Fall back to where, sir?" Io asked. Doss pointed to a quiet part of the map, far from the fighting. It was a small, unimportant area with only a few stars. One of those stars was marked with the word empty. "There," Doss said. "The outer rim, quiet systems, places the Threxians have not bothered to attack yet, because there is nothing there worth taking. We regroup, we rebuild, we buy time." He did not know that one of those quiet, unimportant stars was the sun. He did not know that the empty planet near it was Earth, and he certainly did not know that Earth was about to change everything. Back on Earth, deep under the surface of the planet, in a massive underground facility called Sentinel Base, human scientists and soldiers worked quietly. This was one of many secret bases built to watch the galaxy and prepare for the day humanity might need to reveal itself. A woman named Director Elena Reyes sat in a control room, watching screens filled with information about alien fleets, alien wars, and alien technology. She was in charge of Sentinel Base, and she had spent 30 years of her life studying the stars and the dangers that might come from them. Next to her stood a younger analyst named Jason Okafor. He looked worried as he studied a new report on his screen. "Director, look at this," Jason said. "The Threxian Dominion. They have destroyed 12 Alliance systems this month alone. Look at their path." He pointed at a star map. A red line showed where the Threxian fleet had traveled and destroyed everything. Elena studied the map carefully. Her face grew serious. "Where is this path heading?" Jason zoomed the map out, showing more stars, more systems. The red line kept going, curving slowly through space. It was heading in a general direction, toward the outer rim, toward the quiet systems, toward Sol. "If this pattern continues," Jason said quietly, "the Threxian Dominion could reach our system within 2 to 3 years, maybe sooner, if they decide to chase the retreating Alliance fleets this way." The room went quiet. Everyone knew what that meant. For 100 years, humanity had hidden behind the quiet veil, watching, waiting, growing stronger in secret. But if a war was coming toward Earth, hiding might not be possible anymore. Elena stood up slowly. She looked at all the people in the room, scientists, soldiers, analysts, all working to protect a secret that had kept humanity safe for so long. But now, that secret might soon be tested. "Send this report to the Global Council immediately," Elena said. "They need to know. The days of hiding may be coming to an end." Jason nodded and began typing the message. As he worked, he could not stop thinking about a simple question. What happens when the galaxy finally sees us? Weeks passed. The Threxian Dominion continued its march of destruction, and the Kryn Alliance continued its slow retreat toward the outer rim of the galaxy. Fleet after fleet of Alliance ships, carrying millions of refugees, moved quietly toward the quiet systems, hoping to find safety, or at least time to prepare. On the Human Global Council, leaders from every nation on Earth gathered for an emergency meeting. This council had been formed many decades ago, after humanity first learned about the existence of alien life. Its job was simple but heavy: decide what humanity should do about the wider galaxy. The meeting room was large, with a round table in the center. Around it sat representatives from every continent, every major nation. At the head of the table sat the council leader, an older man named Thomas Vance, who had led the council for almost 15 years. Director Elena Reyes stood before them, showing the same star map that had worried her scientists back at Sentinel Base. This is not a small war, Elena explained. The Threxian Dominion is a real and growing threat. They have destroyed dozens of alien civilizations already. Based on their current path, there is a real chance they will reach our system in the coming years, either by choice or by chasing the Alliance fleets that are retreating this way. A representative from Europe spoke up, his voice tense. Are you saying we should reveal ourselves? After 100 years of hiding? I am saying we need to prepare for the possibility, Elena answered. The quiet veil has kept us safe because no one knew we were here. But if an Alliance fleet retreats into our system, or if the Threxians come this way, hiding may no longer protect us. We may need to choose, stay hidden and hope they pass by, or step forward and be ready to defend ourselves, and perhaps others. The room fell into a heavy silence. For 100 years, staying hidden had been humanity's greatest strength. It had given them time to grow, to build, to prepare without any alien race trying to stop them or study them or attack them. But now, for the first time, that same silence might become a danger instead of a shield. Council Leader Vance leaned forward, his old eyes serious. Director Reyes, what does Fleet Command say? Are we ready, if it comes to that? Elena took a breath before answering. We have spent 100 years building. Our fleets are strong. Our technology, in many ways, surpasses what we have observed from other alien races. But readiness is not the same as certainty. War is never certain, no matter how strong you believe you are. Vance nodded slowly. He looked around the table at the other leaders, each one carrying the weight of this decision on their shoulders. Then we will do what humanity has always done, Vance said. We will prepare for the worst, while hoping for the best. Director Reyes, increase monitoring on all fleet movements near our system. I want to know the moment anything changes. Yes, sir, Elena said. As the meeting ended and the leaders began to leave, Elena stayed behind for a moment, looking at the star map one last time. The red line of Threxian destruction, the blue dots of retreating Alliance fleets. And in the middle of it all, a small, quiet star marked empty, waiting silently for the galaxy to discover the truth. She thought about Dr. Amara Chen's old words. Watch first, learn who they are, then decide if you can trust them. Humanity had watched for 100 years. They had learned a great deal about the galaxy, its wars, its dangers, its wonders. But soon, very soon, the galaxy might finally get the chance to watch humanity back. And what the galaxy would see, when the lights of Earth finally appeared, would surprise everyone. 6 months passed since the Global Council meeting. The Threxian Dominion kept pushing forward, crushing every Alliance world in its path. The Kryn Concord and its allies grew weaker with every battle. Entire fleets vanished. Entire species disappeared from the galaxy, wiped out by an enemy that showed no mercy. At Sentinel Base, deep under the Earth, Director Elena Reyes had not slept properly in weeks. Her office was full of star charts, reports, and blinking screens showing the movement of alien fleets. She drank her 4th cup of coffee that morning and stared at the newest report from her team. Jason Okafor walked in, his face pale. Director, you need to see this. He placed a new chart on her desk. It showed a large group of ships, hundreds of them, moving away from a destroyed Alliance world. Their path led directly toward the Outer Rim, directly toward the quiet systems, directly toward Sol. This is a retreating Alliance fleet, Jason explained. Kryn ships, and ships from 3 other allied species, about 800 vessels total. And Director, they are carrying almost 2 million refugees. Elena studied the chart carefully. How long until they reach our system? At their current speed, about 3 weeks, Jason said. They don't know we're here. As far as their scans can tell, this is still an empty system. They are probably just looking for a quiet place to stop, repair their ships, and figure out their next move. Elena rubbed her tired eyes. And the Threxians? Jason hesitated before answering. We picked up faint signals, suggesting a Threxian scout group might be following this fleet, hunting them. If the scouts find this retreating fleet, they will report back, and a bigger Threxian force will come to finish them off. The room went quiet. Elena stood up and walked to the window, looking out at nothing but rock and dark tunnel, though in her mind she could see the stars above and the desperate fleet moving closer every day. 2 million people, she said softly, running for their lives, heading straight for us, and they have no idea what they're about to find. 3 weeks later, exactly as predicted, the Alliance fleet arrived at the edge of the Sol system. Their ships were damaged, their fuel was low, and their people were exhausted and afraid. General Merrick Doss, the same officer who had ordered the retreat months earlier, stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Radiant Hope, looking at the quiet star system before him. "Scan complete, General," said an officer. "Confirmed. This system matches old records. 1 yellow star, several planets. Third planet from the star shows basic life signs, but nothing advanced. No civilization, no danger." Doss nodded, relief showing on his tired face. "Good. Move the fleet into orbit around the outer planets. We need time to repair engines, treat the wounded, and plan our next move. This system will do." The Alliance fleet slowly entered the Sol system, spreading out among the outer planets, far from Earth itself. Refugee ships powered down their engines to save fuel. Repair crews began working on damaged hulls. For the first time in months, the frightened people aboard these ships allowed themselves a small breath of relief. They did not know that deep beneath the third planet, human eyes were watching every single ship that entered the system. They did not know that human sensors, far more advanced than anything the Alliance possessed, were recording every detail of their fleet, their weapons, their shields, their numbers, their condition. At Sentinel Base, Elena Reyes watched the live feed with her team. Hundreds of ships appeared on the main screen, spreading out among the outer planets like a scattered group of tired travelers. "They're refugees," Elena said quietly. "Look at their ships, damaged, old repairs everywhere. Some of them are barely holding together." She paused. "This isn't an invasion force. These are people running for their lives." Jason nodded beside her. "What do we do, Director?" Elena thought carefully. This was the moment the Global Council had been preparing for, but no plan could have covered every possibility. A frightened, wounded fleet of alien refugees, hiding in the outer edges of the solar system, completely unaware that Earth was anything but empty. "We continue watching," Elena decided, "but I want a full report sent to the Council within the hour. If these refugees are being hunted, that danger may follow them here. We need to be ready." The danger did follow. 4 days after the Alliance fleet arrived in the Sol system, a small, fast Threxian scout ship entered the outer edge of the system as well. It moved carefully, quietly, hunting for signs of the fleet it had been tracking for weeks. The scout ship's captain, a hulking Threxian warrior named Croth Vale, stood in his command chamber, his armored body covered in the scars of countless battles. His race believed strength was the only truth in the universe. Weakness deserved to be destroyed, and mercy was for the foolish. "Report," Croth growled to his sensor officer. "Captain, sensors confirm it. The Alliance fleet is here, hiding among the outer planets. Approximately 800 vessels, heavily damaged, minimal defenses." Croth's mouth curled into something like a smile, though on his alien face it looked more like a snarl. Easy prey. Send the coordinates back to the main fleet. Tell them the hunt is over. We have found our runaway rats." The sensor officer paused before responding. "Captain, there is something strange. Sensor readings from the third planet in this system show anomalies, faint energy signatures, nothing definitive, but unusual for a planet marked as empty." Croth waved a clawed hand dismissively. "Old records list this system as empty and unimportant, probably just interference from the nearby star, or the wreckage of the refugee fleet confusing our instruments. It does not matter. Send the message. Bring the main fleet." What Croth did not know, what no alien race in the galaxy knew, was that those anomalies were the very edge of humanity's quiet veil, straining slightly under the pressure of so many foreign scanners searching so hard, so close to Earth. For 100 years, the veil had held perfectly, but it had never been tested by this many alien sensors, from this many advanced scout ships, aimed so directly at the heart of the system. The veil was starting to crack, just slightly, just enough for a careful observer to notice. But Croth was not careful. Croth was hungry for an easy victory, and so he sent his message, and he waited. Back at Sentinel Base, Elena's team detected the Threxian scout ship the moment it appeared. Alarms did not blare. Sentinel Base did not use loud alarms, only calm, clear warnings on quiet screens. But every person in the control room felt their heart rate rise as the new alien signature appeared on the map. "Director, new contact," said a technician. "Ship design does not match anything in the Alliance fleet. Signature matches historical records of Threxian scout vessels." Elena's jaw tightened. "They found the refugees." "Worse," Jason said, reading a new report. "Director, our systems just detected an outgoing transmission from the scout ship. Encrypted, but the pattern matches typical Threxian fleet communication. They're calling for backup." Elena closed her eyes for a moment, thinking quickly. The Threxian Dominion did not send small forces to finish a job. If this scout ship called for help, an entire battle fleet could arrive within days, ready to slaughter the exhausted, defenseless refugees hiding in Earth's own backyard. "Get me the council," Elena said. "Now." Within the hour, an emergency meeting was called. Council leader Thomas Vance appeared on screen from his office, along with representatives from every major nation. Elena stood before them, presenting the latest data. "A Threxian scout ship has located the refugee fleet hiding in our outer system," Elena explained. "It has already sent a message calling for reinforcements. Based on everything we know about Threxian military behavior, we should expect a larger attack fleet to arrive within 1 to 2 weeks." "And the refugees?" asked a council member. "What are their chances against a Threxian attack fleet?" Elena did not hesitate. "None. Their ships are damaged. Their weapons are weak compared to Threxian technology, and they have no idea that we exist, or that we might be able to help them. If the Threxians attack, those 2 million refugees will be destroyed, all of them." The room fell silent. Every leader present understood the weight of what Elena was saying. For 100 years, humanity's greatest rule had been simple: stay hidden, stay safe, watch and learn. But now, for the first time, that rule was being tested by a choice no one had ever truly prepared for. Council Leader Vance spoke slowly, choosing each word with care. "Director Reyes, if we do nothing, 2 million people die in our own solar system, and we will have watched it happen from the shadows." "Yes, sir," Elena said. "And if we act," Vance continued, "we reveal ourselves to the galaxy for the first time in human history. Every alien race, friendly or hostile, will know that Earth exists, and that Earth is far stronger than anyone imagined." "Yes, sir," Elena said again. Vance looked around the table at the faces of every human leader, each one carrying the same heavy question in their eyes. Finally he spoke. "We did not build the greatest fleet in known space just to hide it forever," Vance said. "We built it to protect what matters. When the moment came, I believe that moment has arrived." He turned to Elena. "Director Reyes, contact Fleet Admiral Kessler. Tell her to prepare the home fleet for deployment. If the Threxians come to slaughter innocent refugees in our system, we will not let them." Elena felt a chill run through her body, not from fear, but from the sudden weight of history pressing down on this single moment. For 100 years, humanity had hidden its lights from the rest of the galaxy. That was about to change. "Yes, sir," Elena said, and she turned to make the call that would begin it all. Meanwhile, aboard the Radiant Hope, General Merrick Doss received grim news of his own. His scanners had detected the same Threxian scout ship, and his intelligence officers confirmed the worst. Their hiding place had been found, and an enemy fleet was likely already on its way. Doss called his senior officers together in the command room. Many of them were exhausted, their eyes heavy with weeks of stress and fear. Among the officers stood Io, the young analyst who had once worried aloud about losing the war entirely. "They found us," Doss said simply. "A Threxian attack fleet could be here within 2 weeks. Our ships are not ready for another battle. Half our fleet cannot even reach full engine power. We have almost no working weapons left after the last 3 encounters." "What are our options, General?" Io asked, his voice trembling slightly. Doss looked at the star map, at the small, quiet system they had chosen for safety. a system that was about to become a graveyard. We run again, if we can. But most of our ships won't survive a long jump in this condition. Or, he paused, his voice heavy with the weight of leadership. Or we stay, and we fight, and most of us die anyway. But perhaps some of the refugee ships escape while we hold the line. The room was silent. No officer spoke. Everyone understood what General Doss was really saying. There was no good option left. Only different ways to lose. Io looked down at his shaking hands, thinking about the 2 million refugees sleeping in the ships around them. Families, children, elders, all trusting that this quiet, empty system would give them the safety they so desperately needed. He did not know that far below the surface of the third planet, human commanders were already preparing their fleets. He did not know that the empty system he had chosen as a last refuge was, in truth, the most heavily defended, most technologically advanced system in the entire known galaxy. He did not know that in less than 2 weeks, the sky above his fleet would fill with millions of lights. Lights that would change the fate of his people, and the fate of the entire galaxy, forever. 10 days passed after General Doss learned that his hiding fleet had been found. Every day felt heavier than the last. Repair crews worked around the clock, trying to fix as many ships as possible. Medical teams treated the wounded and the sick among the refugees. And every single person aboard the Alliance fleet knew, deep down, that time was running out. On the 11th day, the sensors aboard the Radiant Hope lit up with a warning that everyone had been dreading. "General, multiple contacts detected at the edge of the system," the sensor officer shouted. "It's them. It's the Threxian fleet." General Merrick Doss rushed to the main screen. What he saw made his stomach drop. Dozens, then hundreds of red dots appeared on the display, forming a massive wall of enemy ships entering the Sol system. The Threxian attack fleet had arrived, and it was even larger than anyone had feared. "Count?" Doss asked, his voice tight. "Still counting, sir, but early estimates put it at over 300 warships, heavy cruisers, battleships, and at least a dozen carrier ships releasing fighter squadrons. 300 warships, against a battered Alliance fleet of 800 vessels, most of which were unarmed refugee transports, or damaged warships barely able to fire their weapons. It was not a fair fight. It was not a fight at all. It was going to be a massacre. "All ships, general alert," Doss ordered, his voice steady, despite the fear in his heart. "Move refugee transports behind our remaining warships. Prepare to buy them as much time as possible." Young Officer Io stood nearby, watching the enemy fleet grow larger on the screen with every passing second. His hands trembled, but he forced himself to stay at his post. Around the bridge, other officers did the same, each one accepting the grim duty in front of them. "General," Io said quietly, "at this rate, how long can we hold?" Doss did not answer immediately. He looked at the wall of red dots approaching, then at the small cluster of blue dots representing his own exhausted fleet. "Not long enough," he finally admitted. "But we hold as long as we can." Deep beneath the surface of Earth, at Sentinel Base, Director Elena Reyes watched the same terrifying scene unfold on her own screens, with far greater detail than the Alliance fleet could ever see. Human sensors tracked every single Threxian ship as it entered the system, their weapons, their shield strength, their flight paths, everything. "Director, the Threxian fleet has entered attack range of the Alliance ships," Jason reported, his voice tense. "Estimated time until first contact, 11 minutes. Elena's communicator buzzed. It was Fleet Admiral Sarah Kessler, calling from high orbit above Earth, where the true strength of humanity's home fleet waited in silence, cloaked and ready. "Director Reyes," Kessler's voice came through, calm and steady despite the situation. "The home fleet is in position, awaiting final authorization from the Council." Elena quickly opened a channel to Council Leader Vance, who had been monitoring the situation from his office alongside the other world leaders. His face appeared on screen, serious and focused. "Sir," Elena said, "the Threxian fleet is 11 minutes from engaging the refugees. We need a decision now." Vance did not hesitate this time. The long debates, the careful discussions, the century of careful hiding, all of it led to this single moment. "Director Reyes, give Admiral Kessler the order. Deploy the home fleet. Protect those people. Elena felt her heart pound as she relayed the message. Admiral Kessler, you are authorized to deploy. Protect the Alliance fleet. Prevent the Threxian attack. The galaxy is about to learn that Earth was never empty. Aboard her flagship, high above the blue planet, Admiral Sarah Kessler closed her eyes for a brief moment, feeling the enormous weight of the coming moment. Then she opened them, calm and ready. All fleets, she said into the ship-wide communicator, her voice carrying to millions of human sailors, pilots, and soldiers stationed throughout the solar system. This is Admiral Kessler. Today, the galaxy learns who we are. Move to intercept, protect the innocent. For Earth. Across the entire solar system, hidden fleets that had waited quietly for 100 years finally began to move. Ships that had been cloaked among the asteroid belts, hidden behind moons, resting silently in the shadow of planets, all activated at once. Thousands upon thousands of vessels, sleek warships, massive carriers, small fast fighters, began racing toward the battle unfolding at the edge of the system. Back at the battle, the Threxian fleet closed in on the Alliance ships. Captain Croth Vale, aboard his command vessel, watched with grim satisfaction as his sensors locked onto the weakened Alliance fleet. Weapons range in 3 minutes, reported his gunnery officer. Enemy shields are weak. This will be over quickly. Croth smiled his predator's smile. Good. No mercy. Destroy them all. Aboard the Radiant Hope, General Doss watched the enemy fleet close the distance, weapon after weapon powering up on the enemy ships. He gripped the edge of his command console tightly, preparing himself and his crew for what seemed like certain death. All ships, brace for impact, Doss ordered. Fire at will when they are in range. Make every shot count. The Threxian fleet opened fire first. Bright beams of energy shot across the black of space, aimed directly at the front line of Alliance warships. Explosions bloomed silently in the vacuum as shields absorbed hit after hit, weakening rapidly under the assault. Shields at 60%, an officer shouted. 40%, we can't hold much longer. Doss grit his teeth. This was it. This was how it would end, in a quiet, forgotten star system that they had mistakenly believed to be a place of safety. And then, without warning, everything changed. The sky above the battle lit up, not with more Threxian weapons fire, not with explosions, but with lights, thousands upon thousands of lights, appearing suddenly out of what had seemed like empty space just moments before. Human ships, decloaking all at once, revealing themselves to the galaxy for the very first time. Aboard the Radiant Hope, every officer on the bridge froze, staring in complete shock at the scene unfolding before them. Where there had been nothing but stars and darkness, now there were ships, countless ships, sleek, powerful, advanced beyond anything they had ever seen, appearing as if from thin air, surrounding the battle from every direction. What is happening? Io whispered, his eyes wide with disbelief. General Doss could not speak. He simply stared at his screen, watching as millions of lights, the engines, the shields, the running lights of an entire hidden civilization's war fleet, filled the space around them like a sudden, impossible sunrise. On the Threxian side, Captain Croth Vale's confident smile vanished instantly, replaced by pure shock and confusion. Impossible. Sensors showed nothing. This system was marked empty. Captain, new contacts everywhere, his sensor officer shouted, panic clear in his voice. Thousands of them. No, tens of thousands. They came from nowhere, from the planet itself. Croth stared at his screen in disbelief as the human's true fleet revealed its full strength. Massive dreadnoughts, larger than anything the Threxians had ever built. Swarms of fast, deadly fighters, more numerous than could easily be counted. Carrier ships releasing wave after wave of advanced combat drones. It was not just a fleet. It was an entire civilization's worth of military might, hidden and prepared, unleashed all at once. A voice came over every communication channel in the system, calm, clear, and impossible to ignore. It was Admiral Sarah Kessler, speaking not just to her own fleet, but to every ship present, Alliance and Threxian alike. This is Fleet Admiral Sarah Kessler of the United Earth Defense Force. Attention all vessels. You are in the Sol system, home of humanity. We have observed your conflict, and we will not allow innocent lives to be destroyed within our own territory. Threxian forces, you will stand down immediately, or you will be destroyed. For a long moment, silence filled every channel. On the Threxian ships, confusion turned quickly to fear, as commanders realized the true scale of the force now surrounding them. On the Alliance ships, exhausted and terrified refugees and soldiers stared out at the impossible sight above them, unable to fully believe what their eyes were showing them. Captain Crothvale, proud warrior of the Threxian Dominion, stared at the overwhelming force now surrounding his fleet. His pride told him to fight. His training told him that strength always won. But even he could see, with painful clarity, that his 300 ships stood no chance against the tens of thousands now revealed around him. "Captain, orders?" his officer asked nervously. Croth's claws dug into the arm of his command chair. Every instinct in his body screamed against retreat, but he was not a fool, whatever else he was. "Signal the fleet," he growled bitterly. "Full retreat. We are leaving this system." As the Threxian ships began turning to flee, human fighter squadrons moved to escort them out, making certain none of them lingered to cause further harm. The battle that had seemed certain to end in slaughter just minutes earlier was over almost as quickly as it had begun, without a single Alliance ship destroyed. Aboard the Radiant Hope, General Merrick Doss finally found his voice again. He turned to his stunned crew, all of them staring silently at the incredible fleet that now filled the space around them, protecting them, watching over them. "Contact them," Doss finally managed to say. "Open a channel. We need to thank whoever just saved our lives." A young communications officer, her hands still shaking, opened a direct line to the human flagship. Moments later, the calm, steady voice of Admiral Kessler came through once more, this time speaking directly to the Alliance fleet. "Alliance fleet, this is Admiral Kessler of Earth. Your people are safe within our borders. We understand you have been through great hardship. You are welcome to remain here while your ships are repaired, and your wounded are cared for. We ask only for peaceful intentions in return." General Doss felt tears forming in his tired eyes, tears of relief and disbelief all mixed together. For months, he had led his people through fear, loss, and desperation, always searching for a safe place that never seemed to exist. And now, in the last place anyone expected, a system marked simply as empty, they had found not just safety, but salvation. "This is General Merrick Doss, of the Kryn Alliance fleet," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "On behalf of nearly 2 million refugees under my protection, thank you. We accept your offer, and we are in your debt." As the Alliance ships began to settle into a cautious but grateful peace within the solar system, word of what had just happened began to spread. Not just among the refugees, but outward, carried by the few Threxian survivors who had witnessed the impossible sight with their own eyes. The galaxy had believed, for as long as anyone could remember, that the small blue planet near an unimportant yellow star was completely empty. No civilization, no danger, no reason to care. That belief had just been shattered forever, in a single, unforgettable moment, when the darkness of space above Sol had suddenly filled with millions of lights, the lights of a hidden civilization, finally ready to step into the wider galaxy. And far away, aboard a fleeing Threxian ship, Captain Crothvale stared at the star map showing the tiny yellow dot he had once dismissed as unimportant. He knew, with growing dread, that he would have to report what he had seen to his superiors in the Dominion. He knew they would not believe him at first. But soon, the entire galaxy would know the truth. Earth was not empty. Earth had never been empty. And now, for the first time, Earth was ready to be seen. News of what happened in the Sol system spread across the galaxy faster than anyone on Earth expected. The surviving Threxian ships that fled the battle carried the story back to their Dominion leaders. At the same time, the rescued Alliance refugees began sending careful messages to their own people, telling of a hidden civilization that had saved them from certain death. Within weeks, the name of a small, unimportant planet once marked empty on every star chart in the galaxy became known everywhere: Earth. At Sentinel Base, Director Elena Reyes stood before the Global Council once again, but this meeting felt very different from the ones before. The fear and uncertainty of hiding was gone. In its place was something new, the challenge of being known. Reports are coming in from multiple sources across the galaxy, Elena explained, showing a large map filled with new markers. Alliance leaders are requesting official contact. Neutral species are sending careful messages of curiosity. And, she paused, the Threxian Dominion has gone silent. No official statement, no response, just silence. Council leader Thomas Vance studied the map carefully. Silence from an empire that has never shown restraint before. That is concerning. Agreed, Elena said. But for now, our most pressing matter is the Alliance fleet still in our system. General Doss has formally requested a meeting between Alliance leadership and our own. They want to establish official relations with Earth. Vance nodded slowly. Then let us not keep them waiting any longer. Humanity has stayed silent for 100 years. It is time we finally speak. 3 days later, a historic meeting took place aboard a specially prepared human space station orbiting high above Earth. It was the first time in history that alien representatives would set foot, quite literally, within human territory for a formal, peaceful conversation. General Merrick Doss stood at the entrance of the meeting hall, feeling nervous in a way he had not felt even during the darkest days of the war. Beside him stood a few other Alliance representatives, chosen carefully to speak for the many species that made up the retreating fleet. The doors opened, and Doss finally came face to face with humans for the first time. He had expected many things, perhaps tall, imposing warriors or strange creatures unlike anything he had seen before. Instead, he found himself looking at beings who, while different from his own species, were not so different in spirit. Humans, it turned out, looked surprisingly ordinary. 2 arms, 2 legs, expressive faces that showed emotion easily, and yet, this ordinary-looking species had built a fleet that had made the mighty Threxian Dominion turn and flee without a single shot fired in return. Council leader Thomas Vance stepped forward, extending a hand in a gesture that translator devices explained was a traditional human greeting. General Doss, welcome to Earth. My name is Thomas Vance. On behalf of humanity, I am glad we could finally meet under peaceful circumstances. Doss studied the offered hand for a moment, before reaching out with his own smaller, 4-fingered hand, and grasping it gently, mimicking the gesture as best he could. Council Leader Vance, on behalf of the Kryn Alliance, and the nearly 2 million refugees who owe their lives to your people, it is an honor. The 2 leaders sat down together, along with their respective advisors, beginning what would become hours of careful conversation. Doss explained the history of the Threxian War, the desperate retreat, the loss of countless worlds and lives. Vance, in turn, shared a careful history of humanity. Not everything, for there were still secrets worth keeping, but enough to help the Alliance understand who they were dealing with. For 100 years, we watched the galaxy from behind our veil, Vance explained. We saw wars. We saw alliances rise and fall. We learned who could be trusted and who could not. It was not an easy choice to reveal ourselves, but when your people needed help, hiding was no longer something we were willing to do. Doss listened carefully, understanding slowly dawning on his tired face. You watched us, for how long? Since before your war with the Threxians began, Vance admitted. We have detailed records of much of the galaxy's recent history. We chose silence, not because we did not care, but because we were not yet ready to be found. Doss nodded slowly, processing this new understanding of the mysterious species that had saved his people. And now? Now that you have been found, what happens next? Vance considered the question carefully before answering. Now we decide together what kind of relationship humanity will have with the wider galaxy. We do not seek conquest or domination, but we will not allow innocent lives to be destroyed within reach of our help either. The galaxy is a dangerous place, General Doss. Perhaps it is time that danger learned it is no longer unopposed. While diplomatic talks between Earth and the Alliance continued, far across the galaxy, within the heart of Threxian Dominion territory, a very different kind of meeting was taking place. Grand Marshal Threxacorum, supreme leader of the Threxian Dominion, sat upon a massive throne of dark metal, surrounded by his highest generals and advisors. Before him stood Captain Croth Vale, the officer who had witnessed the impossible event in the Sol system firsthand. "Tell me again," Grand Marshal Coram said, his voice a low, dangerous rumble, "how 300 of my warships fled from a system marked completely empty." Croth kept his eyes low, showing proper respect and fear before his supreme leader. "Grand Marshal, the records were wrong!" The system was not empty. It was heavily defended by a species we had never encountered before. Their fleet appeared from nowhere, tens of thousands of ships, hidden by technology beyond anything we possess. Continuing the attack would have meant total destruction of our forces. Coram's clawed hand tightened around the arm of his throne. A hidden species, with a fleet larger than anything we have ever recorded, and you are telling me this species has been sitting quietly in the middle of known space, for who knows how long, completely undetected by our scouts, our spies, our sensors? "Yes, Grand Marshal," Croth said carefully. "Their technology for concealment appears far beyond our own. If they chose to hide from us for so long, they may have been preparing for exactly this moment." The throne room fell into a tense silence. Grand Marshal Coram had built his empire on the belief that strength was the only law of the universe, that any species too weak to defend itself deserved to be conquered. For 50 years, this belief had proven correct, as the Threxian Dominion crushed every enemy in its path. But now, for the first time, they had encountered something that had not merely resisted them. It had utterly humiliated them, without even needing to fire a single shot in anger. A silent species, powerful beyond measure, revealing itself only when it chose to, on its own terms. "This changes things," Coram finally said, his voice quieter than before, though no less dangerous. "We do not yet understand the full strength of this new species. Until we do, we will not provoke them directly, but we will not ignore them either." He turned to his gathered generals. "Send our best intelligence officers. I want to know everything about this planet called Earth, their strength, their weaknesses, their intentions. We will not make the same mistake as Captain Croth's fleet. We will be ready, whatever the future brings." Back on Earth, the days following the reveal brought enormous change to human society. What had once been a carefully guarded secret, known only to select scientists, military leaders, and government officials, was now common knowledge across the entire planet. Every news channel, every conversation, every corner of human life suddenly revolved around one incredible truth: humanity was not alone, and humanity had been far more powerful than anyone outside a small circle had ever known. At Sentinel Base, Elena Reyes found herself giving interview after interview, explaining as much as she was permitted to about the quiet veil, the secret fleets, and the careful century of preparation that had led to this moment. It was strange, after so many years of secrecy, to finally speak openly about the work she had dedicated her life to. During one such interview, a young reporter asked her a question that stuck with her long afterward. "Director Reyes, after 100 years of hiding, of watching, of waiting, was it worth it? Was all that secrecy truly necessary?" Elena thought carefully before answering, remembering the words of Dr. Amara Chen, the scientist who had first proposed the quiet veil so many generations ago. "I believe it was," Elena finally said. "We used that time to learn about the galaxy, to grow stronger, to prepare not just to defend ourselves, but to help others when the moment came. If we had revealed ourselves too early, unprepared, and unaware of the dangers beyond our world, the outcome might have been very different. Instead, when 2 million innocent lives needed protection, we were ready. That readiness saved them. I believe that makes the years of waiting worthwhile." The reporter nodded thoughtfully. "And now that the galaxy knows Earth is no longer empty, what comes next?" Elena looked out through the window of the studio, toward the sky above, where somewhere far beyond sight, Alliance ships and human fleets worked together in careful, growing trust, while distant empires watched nervously, uncertain of what this newly revealed civilization truly intended. "Now," Elena said slowly, "we take our place among the stars, carefully, wisely, and together with those willing to walk that path beside us. Meanwhile, aboard the Radiant Hope, still resting safely within Earth's protection, While repairs continued, General Merrick Doss stood beside young Officer Eo, both of them looking out at the incredible sight of human ships moving gracefully through space around them. "Do you think it's true, General?" Theo asked quietly. "That they were hiding this whole time, this close to the heart of the galaxy, and nobody ever knew?" Doss considered the question, thinking back to the desperate flight from the Threxian Dominion, the endless fear, the belief that they had finally run out of places to hide, only to stumble, by pure chance, or perhaps by something more, into the one place in the galaxy capable of truly protecting them. "I think," Doss said slowly, "that the galaxy just learned a very important lesson. Just because a place looks empty does not mean it truly is. Sometimes, the quietest places hold the greatest strength, waiting patiently for the right moment to reveal itself." Eo looked up at the passing human ships, their lights glowing steadily against the darkness of space, no longer hidden, no longer silent. "And what happens now, between us and them?" Doss allowed himself a small, tired smile, the first genuine smile he had felt in a very long time. "Now, Eo, we find out together what kind of future this galaxy still has left to offer. And for the first time in a long while, I find myself hopeful. Far above them, within the quiet halls of power on Earth, and within the fearful throne rooms of distant empires, the same truth was slowly settling into every corner of the galaxy. The empty planet was empty no longer. Millions of lights had appeared where none were expected, and nothing in the galaxy would ever be quite the same again. 1 year passed, after the day the galaxy first saw the lights of Earth. In that year, much had changed. The Alliance refugees, once desperate and afraid, had built a small but growing settlement within the Sol system, a place they now called Haven Station, orbiting quietly alongside Earth's own space stations. General Merrick Doss had become something of an ambassador between his people and the humans who had saved them, spending long hours working alongside Director Elena Reyes and Council Leader Thomas Vance to build a lasting friendship between their two peoples. But the wider galaxy had not simply accepted humanity's arrival without question. Word of the powerful, mysterious species from the small blue planet spread quickly, and with that word came both hope and fear. Weaker species, worn down by years of war and suffering under threats like the Threxian Dominion, saw humanity as a possible protector, a new hope in a dangerous galaxy. Stronger, more established powers saw humanity as an unknown variable, a hidden strength that had gone unnoticed for far too long, and one that could not easily be controlled or predicted. At Sentinel Base, now expanded and renamed the Earth Diplomatic and Defense Command, Elena Reyes stood in a much larger control room than the one she had worked in a year before. The secret operation she once led quietly from the shadows had grown into something far bigger, the beating heart of humanity's new place among the stars. "Director," Jason Okafor said, walking briskly toward her with a tablet in hand. He had been promoted many times over the past year, now serving as one of Elena's most trusted senior officers. "New reports from the outer diplomatic missions. 3 more species have requested official contact with Earth this month alone." Elena took the tablet, scanning through the details. "And the Threxian Dominion?" Jason's expression grew more serious. "Still quiet, officially. But our intelligence teams have picked up increased military activity along their border regions. It's hard to say for certain, but it looks like they're building up their forces. Whether that's preparation for another attempt against the Alliance, or something aimed more directly at us, we can't be sure yet." Elena nodded slowly, unsurprised by the news. She had expected, from the very beginning, that revealing humanity's true strength to the galaxy would not end all danger. If anything, it had simply changed the nature of the challenges ahead. "Keep monitoring them closely. We cannot afford to grow complacent, not after everything we've built." "Understood, Director," Jason said, before pausing thoughtfully. "Can I ask you something?" Elena looked up from the tablet. "Of course." "Do you ever wonder," Jason asked carefully, "if we made the right choice? Revealing ourselves, I mean. Things were simpler when we were still hidden." Elena considered the question for a long moment, thinking back to that tense day when General Doss's Alliance fleet had first entered the Sol system, unaware of the danger following close behind them, and equally unaware of the protection waiting quietly beneath the surface of a planet marked empty on every star chart in the galaxy. Simpler, yes, Elena finally said, but not necessarily better. 2 million people are alive today because we chose to step out of the shadows when it truly mattered. That is not a small thing, Jason. Sometimes, the right choice is not the easy one. It's the one you can look back on and know, without doubt, that it saved lives that would otherwise have been lost. Across the galaxy, in the throne room of the Threxian Dominion, Grand Marshal Threxa Corum studied a detailed report on the growing power and influence of the newly revealed human civilization. A year of careful spying, careful observation, and cautious intelligence gathering had given the Dominion a much clearer picture of exactly who and what they were now dealing with. Their fleet, Corum said slowly, reading through the reports with narrowed eyes, grows stronger every month. Their technology, their resources, their willingness to defend those who seek their protection. This is not a species that will simply fade away or remain quiet, as we once hoped. Beside him stood one of his most trusted advisors, a scarred veteran named General Threxa Valen. Grand Marshal, shall we prepare a formal response? A direct challenge to test their true strength before they grow too powerful to challenge at all? Corum considered the suggestion carefully, remembering the humiliation of Captain Croth's retreat, and the growing fear that had spread throughout his own ranks after news of that impossible battle became widely known. Fear, he understood well, could be as dangerous to an empire as any enemy fleet. No, Corum finally decided, not yet. A direct challenge against an enemy of unknown true strength is not wisdom, it is recklessness. We watched this species underestimate no one, hide patiently for generations, and reveal their full power only when it mattered most. We would be fools to make the opposite mistake, charging forward blindly, simply because our pride demands it. Then what is your command, Grand Marshal? Volun asked. Corum stood from his throne, walking slowly toward a large window overlooking his empire's capital world. We watch them as they once watched us. We learn their strengths, their weaknesses, their true intentions, and when the time comes, if the time comes, that we must face them directly, we will do so prepared, not desperate. The days of easy conquest across this galaxy are ending. It is time the Dominion learned to be patient as well as powerful. Far away, unaware of this cautious new respect growing within the heart of their most dangerous former enemy, humanity continued its careful work of building a new place for itself within the wider galaxy. Back on Earth, 6 months later, a grand ceremony was held at the newly constructed Galactic Relations Hall, a massive building designed to host diplomatic meetings between Earth and the growing number of alien species now seeking friendship, trade, or protection from humanity. Leaders from a dozen different worlds gathered together, filling the hall with a colorful mixture of alien voices, languages, and cultures, all united by a shared respect for the planet that had once been dismissed as empty and unimportant. General Merrick Doss stood near the front of the gathered crowd, now dressed in the formal robes of an official ambassador representing the resettled Alliance refugees who called Earth's solar system home. Beside him stood Io, no longer a nervous young officer, but a confident diplomat in his own right, having spent the past year learning alongside human scholars and scientists. On the main stage, Council Leader Thomas Vance stood ready to address the gathered crowd, with Director Elena Reyes standing proudly nearby, having played such a crucial role in bringing this remarkable day into existence. 1 year ago, Vance began, his voice carrying clearly through the hall, the galaxy believed this world to be empty. A quiet, unimportant planet, unworthy of notice or concern. That belief was wrong, and on the day it was proven wrong, we made a choice to step forward not with conquest or domination in our hearts, but with the simple desire to protect those who needed protecting, and to build friendships with those willing to walk beside us in peace. He paused, looking out over the diverse crowd of alien representatives who had traveled great distances to be present for this historic occasion. Today, we stand not as a hidden secret, nor as a conquering force, but as a partner, ready to help build a safer, stronger galaxy. The lights that once surprised the galaxy that fateful day were never meant to be a warning. They were meant to be a promise that when the innocent are threatened, humanity will stand ready to help, no matter the cost of finally being seen. The hall erupted into applause from the gathered representatives, a chorus of many different voices, many different species, united in a single moment of hope for a better future. Elena Reyes watched the celebration with quiet pride, her mind drifting back to that tense, uncertain day 1 year ago, when a frightened refugee fleet had stumbled into a system marked simply as empty, unaware that they were about to change the course of galactic history forever. She thought of Dr. Amara Chen, the scientist whose careful wisdom had guided humanity's long century of patient watching and preparation, and she felt certain, in that moment, that her old mentor would have been proud of what her people had finally chosen to become. General Doss approached Elena quietly during a break in the ceremony, offering her a respectful nod. "Director Reyes, I never properly thanked you for everything your people did that day, and every day since." Elena smiled warmly. "You already thanked us, General, the moment you chose to trust us, and to help us build something better together. That trust means more than any words ever could." Doss looked around the grand hall, filled with representatives from a dozen different worlds, all gathered peacefully within the borders of a planet once thought completely empty. "The galaxy has learned an important lesson because of what your people did that day," he said thoughtfully. "Never assume you understand the full strength of something simply because it appears quiet, or hidden, or unimportant. Sometimes, the greatest strength waits patiently in the shadows, ready to shine only when the moment truly calls for it." Elena nodded, looking out at the peaceful gathering before them, a stark and beautiful contrast to the desperate battle that had first brought their two peoples together. "That is a lesson, General Doss, that I believe this galaxy will remember for a very long time." Outside the great hall, high above the blue and green world that had once hidden itself so carefully from galactic eyes, countless human ships moved steadily through the darkness of space, their lights shining brightly and openly for the very first time in 100 years. No longer hidden, no longer silent, no longer alone. The galaxy had once believed Earth was empty. It would never make that mistake again.